the Illinois coal bell. In 1944, a 10-year-old boy named Newton Anderson dropped a lump of coal in his basement in Sulphur Springs, Illinois. When the coal broke open, a small metal bell fell out. The bell appeared to be made of brass or bronze, with an iron clapper, and featured intricate decorative patterns on its surface. The remarkable aspect wasn't the bell itself, but where it was found. The coal came from the Willow Mine in Illinois, and geological surveys dated that coal seam to approximately 300 million years ago, the Carboniferous period, long before any humans existed on Earth. Anderson kept the bell and later had it examined by multiple researchers. The coal surrounding the bell showed no signs of being broken and resealed. The bell was completely encased within the solid coal, meaning it had to have been there when the coal formed from compressed plant material millions of years ago. Metallurgical analysis of the bell showed it was made using techniques consistent with human metalworking, controlled heating, alloying of metals, and precision casting. The decorative pattern suggested deliberate artistic design. Nothing about the bell's construction indicated natural formation or any process other than deliberate manufacture. The Illinois State Geological Survey examined the coal and confirmed it came from the specified seam, dated through standard geological methods including radiometric dating of surrounding rock layers and index fossil correlation. The coal was definitively from the Carboniferous period. This creates an impossible situation. According to conventional timelines, the first hominids didn't appear until about 6 or 7 million years ago. Modern humans emerged only about 300,000 years ago. Metalworking began approximately 7,000 years ago. Yet, here was a manufactured metal bell embedded in coal from 300 million years ago. Skeptics suggested several explanations. Perhaps the coal wasn't actually that old, but geological dating confirmed it was. Perhaps the bell was inserted into existing coal, but the coal showed no signs of being broken and reformed. Perhaps it was a hoax, but Anderson was a child when he found it, with no apparent motive, and the bell was examined by multiple independent researchers who found no evidence of fraud. The bell was displayed at a small museum, but never received serious academic attention. Mainstream archaeology dismissed it as either misidentified, contaminated, or fraudulent without conducting thorough investigation. The artifact challenged too many fundamental assumptions about the human timeline to be taken seriously. Similar objects have been found in coal seams worldwide. Nails, chains, tools, and other manufactured items embedded in coal millions of years old. Each case faces the same dismissal. If the timeline is correct, these objects can't exist. Therefore, they must be explained away regardless of the physical evidence. The stratification doesn't lie. Coal forms in specific geological layers over millions of years. Objects found fully embedded within those layers were present when the coal formed. The Illinois coal bell exists in a layer that says humans with metalworking technology existed 300 million years ago, an impossibility that archaeology refuses to address. The London Hammer. In 1936, Max and Emma Hahn were hiking near London, Texas, when they discovered a rock with wood protruding from it. They broke open the rock and found an iron hammer with a wooden handle embedded within solid limestone. The limestone formation was dated to the Cretaceous period, approximately 110–115 million years ago. The hammer itself appeared to be a standard mining or construction tool, a metal head with a wooden handle, showing clear signs of human manufacture. The metal head was about 6 inches long, made of iron with an unusually high purity level, and showed evidence of having been cast or forged. The rock encasing the hammer was examined by geologists who confirmed it was genuine Cretaceous limestone. The encrustation wasn't added material. The hammer was found within a solid limestone concretion that had formed around it. The rock showed no signs of being opened and resealed. Metallurgical analysis of the hammerhead revealed it was made of 96.6% iron with 2.6% chlorine and 0.74% sulfur, an unusual composition. Modern iron typically contains carbon and various impurities from smelting processes. This hammer's composition suggested an unknown manufacturing method producing exceptionally pure iron. Most remarkably, the iron showed virtually no rust, despite being embedded in rock for what should have been millions of years. Even when researchers deliberately scratched the surface to expose fresh metal, oxidation didn't occur as expected. The metal appeared to have properties that prevented normal corrosion. The wooden handle, where it extended into the rock, had partially petrified, turned to stone through mineral replacement. This process typically requires thousands or millions of years, supporting the great age of the encrustation. Critics immediately attacked the find. They suggested the hammer was dropped in a lime solution that hardened around it, creating a false appearance of great age. But limestone concretions don't form that way. They develop slowly over geological time periods through mineral precipitation, not through contact with lime solutions. Others argued that rapid concretion could occur under certain chemical conditions, encasing the hammer in relatively recent times, despite being found in Cretaceous rock layers. But this doesn't explain the petrification of the wooden handle or the presence of the concretion within older geological strata. The hammer was dated using the rock encasing it, and that rock's position in geological layers places it at 110+ million years old. Standard dating techniques, stratigraphic position, fossil correlation, and radiometric dating of surrounding formations all confirm the Cretaceous age. This means a manufactured iron tool existed 110 million years ago during the age of dinosaurs, approximately 109.7 million years before humans evolved. The stratification is clear. The hammer is in a layer that predates human existence by an impossible margin. The hammer is now housed in the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Mainstream archaeology refuses to examine it seriously, dismissing it as either modern contamination or misidentified without conducting detailed stratigraphic analysis. The physical evidence is ignored because the implications are too contradictory to accepted timelines. The Kingoodie Artifact. In 1844, during quarrying operations near Kingoodie, Scotland, workers split open a sandstone block and found an iron nail embedded within it. The nail was approximately 1 inch long and showed signs of corrosion, with about 1/8 of an inch of the head visible on the rock's surface before the block was split. The discovery was reported to the British Association for the Advancement of Science. Sir David Brewster, a respected physicist, examined the artifact and testified that the nail was genuine and had been completely embedded within the sandstone, not inserted after quarrying. The sandstone came from the Devonian period, dated to approximately 360 to 415 million years ago, based on its stratigraphic position and fossil content. The block showed no signs of being broken and reformed. The nail was in solid rock, positioned in a way that indicated it had been present when the sandstone lithified, turned from sediment to stone. Brewster noted that about 1 inch of the nail was embedded entirely within the rock, with no channels or cracks that could explain insertion after the fact. The nail's position was inconsistent with any natural formation. It couldn't be a mineral deposit that coincidentally resembled a nail because it showed clear signs of forging, including a defined head and shaft. The quarry workers who found it reported that when the stone was first exposed, they could see only a tiny portion of the nail head at the surface. The rest was discovered when the block split, revealing the nail shaft extending into solid rock. Multiple witnesses confirmed this sequence. Geological examination of the surrounding sandstone confirmed it was genuine Devonian sandstone from the established quarry formation. The rock's age was determined through standard geological methods, including its stratigraphic position in a well-studied formation and correlation with index fossils from the same layer. The implications are staggering. The nail appears to be a manufactured iron object, something requiring mining, smelting, and metalworking, embedded in rock from 360 or 415 million years ago. The first known iron smelting occurred around 1200 BCE, approximately 3,200 years ago. This nail predates that by over 360 million years. Scientists at the time proposed various explanations. Some suggested the nail might be a natural iron formation that coincidentally resembled a manufactured nail, but the presence of a distinct head and shaft argued against natural formation. Others proposed that the nail might have been driven into soft sediment before lithification and the rock's age was wrong, but this contradicts all stratigraphic evidence. The artifact was eventually lost or discarded, making further analysis impossible, but the original reports remain in the records of the British Association for the Advancement of Science. Multiple credible witnesses documented an iron nail in Devonian sandstone, a stratigraphic impossibility that was dismissed rather than explained. The layer doesn't lie. Devonian sandstone formed hundreds of millions of years ago. Objects fully embedded within that stone were present when it lithified. The Kingoodie nail exists in a geological layer that says metalworking occurred before fish had fully evolved onto land. The Antikythera mechanism context. The Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901, is famous as an ancient analog computer. But what's often overlooked is the stratigraphic impossibility it represents when considered in its archaeological layer. The device was found in a shipwreck dated to approximately 60–70 BCE, based on pottery, coins, and other artifacts. The mechanism itself has been dated through multiple methods to approximately 150–100 BCE. It contains at least 30 bronze gears, including differential gears, arranged in a complex system that calculated astronomical positions and eclipses. The technological sophistication is staggering. The device could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the Olympic Games cycle, and model the irregular orbit of the moon using epicyclic gearing, a mechanical representation of Hipparchus's astronomical theory. The gear cutting shows precision that wouldn't be matched again until the 14th century CE. X-ray analysis and CT scanning revealed the full complexity. Differential gearing, not reinvented until the 16th century, miniaturized components, inscriptions with operating instructions, and astronomical calculations matching later Babylonian methods. The mechanism represented a level of mechanical engineering that shouldn't appear again for over 1,000 years. Here's the stratigraphic problem. The Antikythera mechanism sits in an archaeological layer, circa 100 BCE, that should contain only basic tools and simple devices. The next archaeological layers above it, representing the next 1,000 plus years, contain progressively simpler technology, not more complex. The Roman and medieval periods that followed show no evidence of similar mechanical complexity. The gear cutting, astronomical calculations, and engineering principles demonstrated in the Antikythera mechanism vanished completely from the archaeological record and didn't reappear until the Renaissance. This is reverse stratification for technology. The deeper, older layer contains advanced mechanical computing, while the shallower, newer layers above it show technological regression. It's as if a smartphone was found in a layer beneath successive layers containing only rotary phones, then telegraph equipment, then no electrical devices at all. Standard archaeology explains this as a lost technology. The knowledge existed briefly then, was forgotten. But this explanation fails to address why no transitional technology appears in intermediate layers. There's no archaeological evidence of progression leading to the Antikythera level of sophistication, nor evidence of its gradual loss. The mechanism appeared suddenly in the archaeological record, fully formed with no precursors, then vanished completely. The layers above it, the chronologically later periods, show no trace of the knowledge required to build it. This violates the fundamental principle that technology should show progression over time when examined through stratification. Some researchers suggest the Antikythera mechanism wasn't unique, that many such devices existed but haven't been found. But absence of evidence becomes evidence of absence when we're talking about a 1,000-year gap. If this level of technology was common, some trace should appear in the intermediate layers. The device forces a choice. Either accept that advanced technology appeared, was lost completely, and the archaeological layers accurately reflect this discontinuity, or question whether the conventional interpretation of technological progression through stratification is correct. The Antikythera mechanism exists in a layer that suggests ancient Greeks had mechanical computing capabilities that wouldn't be matched for over a millennium. The layers above it show that this capability completely vanished. The stratification tells a story of technological collapse that mainstream archaeology struggles to explain. The Laetoli footprints problem. In 1976, paleontologist Mary Leakey discovered a trail of fossilized footprints at Laetoli in Tanzania. The prints were clearly made by bipedal hominids walking upright. They were found in volcanic ash layers dated to 3.6 million years ago through potassium-argon dating and stratigraphic correlation. The footprints showed fully modern human-like features: a well-developed arch, rounded heel, pronounced ball, and forward-pointing big toe aligned with the other toes. The gait analysis indicated a fully bipedal stride identical to modern humans, not the shuffling gait of apes or early hominids. Here's the stratigraphic problem. These footprints are indistinguishable from modern human footprints, yet they're found in layers 3.6 million years old. Homo sapiens supposedly emerged only 300,000 years ago, and even earlier hominids at 3.6 million years ago should show more primitive foot structure. The prints were initially attributed to Australopithecus afarensis, the same species as the famous Lucy fossil, but skeletal evidence of Australopithecus shows a foot structure adapted for both tree climbing and ground walking, with curved toes and features inconsistent with the Laetoli prints. Detailed analysis of the Laetoli footprints revealed they matched modern human feet in every measurable parameter. The arch height, toe proportions, heel strike pattern, and pressure distribution were identical to prints made by modern barefoot humans. Several researchers noted that if these prints were found without the surrounding volcanic ash, they would be classified as modern human without hesitation. The stratigraphic context is undeniable. The footprints are in volcanic ash layers between other dated layers, creating a secure chronological position. Above and below the footprint layer are volcanic tuffs that have been radiometrically dated, bracketing the prints at 3.6 million years old. This creates an impossible situation. The footprints say modern human-like feet were walking upright 3.6 million years ago. The fossil record says modern human feet evolved only within the last few 100,000 years. The stratification supports the ancient date. Something doesn't match. Some researchers have questioned the footprint attribution, suggesting they might have been made by an unknown hominid species with remarkably modern feet. But this simply pushes the problem sideways. Why would an ancient hominid have feet identical to modern humans when all other known species from that period had different foot structures? Other scientists have proposed that foot structure evolved convergently toward the modern form independently in different lineages. But convergent evolution typically produces similar solutions that still show distinct differences. These prints show no differences from modern human prints. The footprints have been protected since discovery, covered again with volcanic ash to preserve them. But the stratigraphic paradox remains: modern human-like feet in layers millions of years too old. The layer's age is confirmed by multiple dating methods. The footprint's modern appearance is confirmed by detailed analysis. Either modern human-like feet existed 3.6 million years ago, or our dating methods are fundamentally wrong for this site. Mainstream paleontology chooses to reinterpret the evidence rather than question the timeline, attributing modern-looking prints to primitive hominids without explaining how primitive feet could leave modern prints. The volcanic ash layer doesn't lie. The footprints within it are 3.6 million years old and look exactly like modern human prints. The stratification says modern foot anatomy existed millions of years before it should have evolved. The Salzburg Cube. In 1885, a worker at a foundry in Salzburg, Austria broke open a block of coal and found a small metal cube embedded within it. The cube was approximately 2.5 inches on each side, made of iron or steel, with precise 90-degree angles, and what appeared to be a deep groove encircling it. The coal block came from a mine in Austria, and the coal seam was dated to the Tertiary period, approximately 60 million years ago, based on stratigraphic position and fossil content. The cube was completely embedded within the coal, with no channels or cracks suggesting insertion after mining. The worker reported the find to the mining company, and the cube was examined by engineers who noted its geometric precision. The edges met at exact right angles, the surfaces were smooth and parallel, and the encircling groove appeared to be machined rather than naturally formed. The cube was displayed at the Salzburg Museum, where it was photographed and documented. Museum records described it as a nearly perfect cube with remarkably precise edges and surfaces that appeared to be artificially manufactured. The coal surrounding it showed clear imprinting from the cube's shape. Metallurgical examination showed the cube was made of forged iron with a composition consistent with steel, containing carbon in a way that required controlled heating and working. Natural iron formations don't show this type of controlled composition or geometric precision. The stratigraphic impossibility is clear. A precisely machined metal cube in coal from 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene epoch, when mammals were just beginning to diversify after the dinosaur extinction. No primates existed yet, much less tool-using humans capable of precision metalworking. Skeptics suggested the cube might be a natural concretion, a nodule formed through mineral precipitation. But concretions don't form perfect cubes with machined grooves. They typically show irregular shapes and wouldn't have precise 90-degree angles or parallel surfaces. Others proposed that the coal's age was wrong or that the cube was somehow introduced into the coal after mining. But the coal came from a well-dated seam in an established mine, and the cube showed the coal imprinted around it, indicating the coal had molded to the cube's shape during compression, not that the cube was inserted later. The artifact was eventually lost or misplaced during World War II, making further analysis impossible. Some researchers have suggested it was discarded because it was too problematic, physical evidence that contradicted every timeline of human technological development. Photographs and written descriptions remain in museum archives. Multiple witnesses documented a precision-made metal cube embedded in 60-million-year-old coal. The stratification places manufactured metalwork in a geological layer tens of millions of years before humans evolved. The coal seam's age is confirmed through standard geological dating. The cube's artificial nature is confirmed by examination showing precision manufacturing. The physical evidence says advanced metalworking existed 60 million years ago. Mainstream archaeology's response is to ignore evidence that challenges the timeline rather than explain it. The Wolfe Creek Crater Tools. In 1947, geologists examining Wolfe Creek Crater in Western Australia found stone tools and worked implements embedded in crater ejecta, material thrown out during the meteor impact. The crater itself was dated through multiple methods to approximately 300,000 years ago. The tools showed clear signs of human manufacture, deliberate flaking, shaped edges, and working surfaces. They included hand axes, scrapers, and cutting implements made from local stone materials. The tools were not on the crater surface, but embedded within the ejecta, the rock and debris that was ejected when the meteor struck. The stratigraphic problem is this. The tools are in the ejecta layer that was deposited during the impact 300,000 years ago. They couldn't have been made and dropped into that layer later because ejecta is a one-time deposit from the impact event. Tools found within ejecta had to have been on the ground surface when the meteor struck. This places human tool makers in Australia 300,000 years ago. The conventional timeline says humans didn't reach Australia until approximately 65,000 years ago, a discrepancy of 235,000 years. Geological dating of the crater used multiple methods: thermoluminescence dating of shocked quartz, cosmogenic isotope dating of ejecta, and stratigraphic correlation. All methods agreed on an age of approximately 300,000 years, with possible range from 250,000 to 350,000 years. The tool's position within the ejecta was documented by multiple geologists. They weren't surface finds that could have been dropped recently. They were embedded in consolidated ejecta deposits that had been undisturbed since the impact. Archaeologists examining the tools confirmed they were human-made, not natural rock breakage. The flaking patterns, edge angles, and working surfaces showed intentional manufacture. Some tools showed use-wear patterns indicating they had been utilized before being buried in the impact ejecta. The implications challenged two fundamental assumptions. First, that humans reached Australia only 65,000 years ago, and second, that tool-making humans existed in that location far earlier than conventional timelines suggest. Mainstream archaeology addressed this contradiction by questioning the tool's stratigraphic context rather than the dating. Some suggested the tools might have worked their way down into the ejecta through ground movement or animal burrows. But ejecta layers are typically compact and consolidated, and the tools showed no signs of downward migration through layering. Others propose that the tools might have been made from impact-ejected rocks by later humans who found and worked the material. But this doesn't explain why worked tools appear within the ejecta layer itself, embedded in deposits from the impact. A few researchers suggested the crater might be younger than dated, with dating methods producing erroneous ages. But multiple independent dating techniques all converged on approximately 300,000 years, making systematic dating error unlikely. The stratigraphic evidence is clear. Human-made tools and ejected deposits from a 300,000-year-old impact event places tool-making humans in Australia far earlier than conventional migrations timelines allow. The layer says humans were there when the meteor struck. The timeline says that's impossible. The Nampa Image. In 1889, workers drilling a water well near Nampa, Idaho brought up a small clay figurine from a depth of 320 feet. The figurine was approximately 1.5 inches tall and depicted a human form with remarkable artistic detail, despite severe damage from the drilling process. The geological context is what makes this find extraordinary. The figurine came from a depth of 320 feet in deposits dated to the Pliocene epoch, approximately 2 million years old, based on stratigraphic position and geological correlation of the rock layers. The figurine was made of fired clay, showing evidence of being deliberately sculpted and then baked at high temperature, a ceramic manufacturing process. Despite damage from the drill bit, the figure clearly showed human form with arms, legs, torso, and detailed surface features, including what appeared to be clothing or decorative patterns. Geologists examined the site and confirmed that the deposits at 320 feet depth were undisturbed Pliocene sediments. There were no channels, cavities, or disturbances that could explain a later object working its way down through solid rock layers. The sediments were continuous and compacted, with no evidence of intrusion. The drilling crew reported that the figurine came up with the sand pump at exactly 320 feet depth, mixed with the rock and sediment from that level. Multiple workers witnessed the recovery and could testify that the figurine emerged from deep deposits, not from surface contamination of the drilling equipment. Charles Putnam, an official from the Geological Survey, examined the figurine and the drill site. He reported that the stratigraphic context was secure. The object came from Pliocene deposits approximately 2 million years old. His report noted the impossibility of the find but confirmed the geological evidence. This creates an impossible situation. The figurine represents artistic skill and ceramic technology, firing clay at controlled temperatures to create permanent ceramic. According to conventional timelines, pottery wasn't invented until approximately 18,000 years ago. This figurine appears in layers from 2 million years ago. Furthermore, the human form depicted in the figurine suggests that whoever made it was anatomically modern enough to create representational art. The oldest known representational art is approximately 40,000 years old. This piece is from layers 1,160,000 years older. Skeptics immediately questioned the find. Some suggested the figurine might have fallen into the drill hole from the surface and been misidentified as coming from depth. But multiple workers witnessed its recovery mixed with deep sediments, and the drilling method, sand pump from a sealed bore, makes surface contamination unlikely. Others proposed that the geological dating was wrong and the deposits weren't actually 2 million years old. But the stratigraphic position of the site within well-studied Idaho formations confirmed the age. The depth of 320 feet placed the find in unambiguous Pliocene deposits. The figurine was examined by several scientists and displayed at various institutions before being lost or misplaced in the early 20th century. Photographs and detailed descriptions exist in geological records, but the original artifact is no longer available for analysis. What remains is documentation of a ceramic figurine from 320 feet deep in 2 million-year-old deposits, a stratigraphic impossibility that says artistic ceramic manufacture existed millions of years before humans evolved to the point of creating pottery. The geological layer doesn't lie. Objects recovered from 320 feet in those deposits are 2 million years old. The Nampa figurine exists in a layer that says advanced artistic and technological capabilities existed before modern humans existed. The Mystery of Hueyatlaco. In the 1960s, archaeologist Cynthia Irwin Williams excavated a site at Hueyatlaco, Mexico, and found sophisticated stone tools and weapons in geological layers dated to 250,000 years ago. Through multiple independent methods, the tools included advanced bifacial points requiring significant skill to manufacture. The site contained 4 distinct geological layers with artifacts. The layers were dated using uranium-thorium dating of volcanic ash, volcanic glass, dating through fission track analysis, and geological correlation with dated volcanic events in the region. All methods converged on dates ranging from 250,000 to 370,000 years old. The tools themselves were sophisticated, pressure-flaked bifacial points, blades, and scrapers, showing advanced snapping techniques. These weren't crude choppers or simple flakes, but well-made tools requiring significant technical knowledge and skill to produce. Geologist Virginia McIntyre led the dating team and repeatedly confirmed the ancient dates through multiple methods. The geological context was clear. The tools were in undisturbed deposits that could be reliably dated through several independent techniques, all yielding similar results. The stratigraphic problem is devastating to conventional timelines. Humans supposedly reached the Americas approximately 15,000, 20,000 years ago, possibly 30,000 years ago, in the most generous estimates. These tools are in layers 250,000 years old, over 200,000 years earlier than humans should have been in the Americas. Moreover, the sophistication of the tools suggests they were made by anatomically modern humans, or at least advanced hominids. But humans didn't exist in the Americas at all according to conventional migration timelines. And, even in Africa, humans capable of making such sophisticated tools weren't supposed to exist 250,000 years ago. The publication of these dates created immediate controversy. The dates were so inconsistent with accepted timelines that the paper reporting them was rejected by multiple journals despite solid dating methodology. When eventually published in a geology journal, the archaeological implications were largely ignored. McIntyre faced career damage for standing by her dates. She was pressured to retract or redate the findings. When she refused, citing the solid geological evidence, she lost her university position and found it difficult to publish further work. Her commitment to accurate reporting of stratigraphic evidence effectively ended her career. The site remains in the geological record with dates that don't fit the timeline. Subsequent researchers have suggested the dates must be wrong, despite multiple independent methods confirming them, or that the association between tools and dated layers is incorrect, despite clear stratigraphic context. No one has successfully challenged the dating methodology or shown contamination in the layers. The dates are solid. The tools are clearly human-made. The stratigraphic position is undeniable. The only problem is that the evidence contradicts the accepted timeline. The layers at Hueyatlaco say humans with advanced stone-working technology were in Mexico 250,000 years ago. Mainstream archaeology's response has been to dismiss the evidence, damage the careers of researchers who reported it accurately, and exclude the site from discussions of American prehistory. The stratification doesn't lie. The tools are in 250,000-year-old deposits. Either humans reached the Americas hundreds of thousands of years earlier than believed, or the entire timeline of human migration and technological development needs revision. The Virginia Mastodon. In the 1960s, a mastodon skeleton was discovered near Saltville, Virginia, in deposits that, according to standard dating, were approximately 14,000 years old. The remarkable finding wasn't the mastodon itself, but what was embedded in its skeleton. The tip of a stone projectile point lodged in a rib bone. The projectile point fragment showed clear signs of human manufacture, intentional flaking, shaped edges, and morphology consistent with a weapon point. It was embedded directly in the bone tissue, indicating the mastodon had been wounded by a human hunter. Here's the stratigraphic problem. The deposits containing the mastodon were initially dated to 14,000 years ago using standard methods. Humans were thought to have reached North America only 13,000 years ago via the Bering Land Bridge. A hunted mastodon in Virginia, predating human arrival, was impossible. Further dating using radiocarbon methods on the mastodon bone itself produced dates of approximately 14,000, 15,000 years ago, confirming the stratigraphic date. The mastodon with embedded human artifact existed before humans were supposed to be in North America. This finding should have pushed back the timeline of human arrival in the Americas, but instead, it was largely dismissed or ignored. The conventional Clovis first theory, stating humans arrived 13,000 years ago, was so entrenched that contradictory evidence was set aside rather than used to revise the timeline. The Saltville Mastodon wasn't unique. Other sites showed evidence of human presence in the Americas before the supposed 13,000-year arrival date. Monte Verde in Chile, Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania, and other sites all produced evidence of earlier human presence. Each faced similar resistance. The stratigraphic layers at these sites clearly placed human artifacts below layers dated to before 13,000 years ago. The layers didn't lie. Humans were in the Americas earlier, but the timeline was treated as more reliable than the physical evidence. It took decades before the Clovis first theory was finally abandoned in mainstream archaeology. By the 2000s, sufficient evidence had accumulated that pre-Clovis human presence was finally accepted, with dates pushed back to approximately 15,000, 20,000 years ago. But this process revealed something troubling. When stratigraphic evidence contradicts accepted timelines, archaeology often chooses to dispute the evidence rather than revise the timeline. The Saltville Mastodon was evidence of humans in Virginia 14,000 plus years ago, but that evidence was dismissed for decades because it didn't fit. The pattern repeats across archaeology. When the layers say something inconvenient, question the layers rather than the timeline. The Saltville Mastodon existed in a stratigraphic position that said humans hunted megafauna in North America before they were supposed to have arrived. The evidence was eventually accepted, but only after decades of resistance. This case differs from others on this list because it was eventually accepted after the timeline was revised, but it demonstrates the principle. Archaeological layers that contradict established timelines are resisted, dismissed, and only accepted when evidence becomes overwhelming. How many other stratigraphic contradictions remain dismissed because they challenge timelines too fundamentally to be accepted? 10 archaeological layers that tell impossible stories. A metal bell in 300-million-year-old coal. An iron hammer in 110-million-year-old limestone. An iron nail in 360-million-year-old sandstone. An advanced mechanism in a layer above technological regression. Modern-looking footprints in 3.6-million-year-old volcanic ash. A precision cube in 60-million-year-old coal. Stone tools in 300,000-year-old meteor ejecta. A ceramic figurine from 2-million-year-old deposits. Sophisticated weapons in 250,000-year-old Mexican strata. A hunted mastodon from before humans arrived. The layers don't lie. Stratification is the fundamental principle of archaeology and geology. Deeper layers are older, shallower layers are younger. Objects found within sealed layers were deposited when those layers formed. These aren't interpretations or theories, they're basic physical facts. Yet these 10 cases show objects in layers where they cannot exist according to conventional timelines. Metal tools millions of years before metalworking. Human footprints millions of years before humans. Artistic ceramics millions of years before pottery. Advanced technology in layers beneath the simpler technology. Mainstream science responds predictably. Dismiss the evidence. Challenge the dating despite multiple independent methods confirming ages. Suggest contamination despite sealed stratigraphic contexts. Attack the credibility of researchers who report findings accurately. In extreme cases, lose or discard the artifacts to prevent further study. The pattern is clear. When physical evidence contradicts established timelines, suppress the evidence rather than revise the timeline. When the layers say something impossible, question the layers rather than question our assumptions. But what if the layers are telling the truth? What if human civilization is far older than we believe? What if advanced technology has existed multiple times, with each cycle buried beneath the next? The geological column might not record a simple progression from primitive to advanced. It might record cycles, rise, peak, collapse, burial, and then the next cycle beginning. each civilization literally stratified beneath the next. This would explain the impossible layers, not contamination but genuine artifacts from previous cycles, buried beneath millions of years of sediment and geological activity, occasionally preserved and exposed in coal seams, crater ejecta, or quarried stone. It's a disturbing possibility. It means our civilization isn't the first. It means previous advanced societies rose and fell, were buried completely, and exist now only as impossible artifacts in forbidden layers. It means we might be destined for the same burial, becoming impossible artifacts for whatever comes after us. The layers don't lie. We just refuse to believe what they're saying.